how many officers are in the force at the moment, and how many of those are actually patrolling a beat. So good question. So for the beat officers that we have in the field, we just bid 356 officers. So there's 356 sworn officers who drive around in the marked police cars. I don't know how many exactly numbers we have in the DOJ response team. And I'm not sure what a tooth to tail ratio is. If you want to expand on that a little bit more, but we just had the bid. And with that, we kind of moved the schedules around a little bit. It went from 410s across the board to a 5/8 schedule, with some modifications in there. There's a couple of shifts on each watch that have the pins still, and all of graveyard still on 410. One of the reasons we did that is just for...
So, Deputy Chief, could you go over those schedules again so that we can write them down? Because the people that are interested in doing ride-alongs, I think we would like to know kind of what those times are. So, like Monday through Friday, or what were the times again? I'm sorry.
Okay, so we went to a 5/8 schedule, and so day shift. 3 of the squads on day shift have the original 6 to 4 schedule. Or I'm sorry, actually I didn't take that back. They actually went to 8s, so I think it's from 7 to 4, something like that. And then there's one 10-hour shift. So on each shift, each swing, so days and swings, there's also another 10-hour shift. One for each of the area command or each of the shifts or the swings. And that way we still had officers on 8 410s for one squad of day shift, one squad of swing shift, then all of graveyard are still on 410s. And in each area command, their days are a little bit different. They're kind of staggered. So Commander Weber would actually be able to answer like the way his shifts are scheduled.
Okay.
But for across the board, we did that, and I think it gives about a 13% increase in actual staffing across the board by going to the 5/8s. Just given the fact that we don't have any overlapping squads right now. It allows up to 8 officers per watch extra per watch. So for 8 more on swings, 8 more on graves, stuff like that. That way we don't have any more of the standalone squads where you used to have a squad that started off with 8, through sheer attrition and everything else. By the end of the bid, they're down to 4 officers and they're a standalone squad. So now we have that overlap of a minimum of 2 squads working at all times. So.
Okay.
Could you?
So there is a question. Oh, go ahead.
I just was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit about how many officers are, say, on patrolling the Northeast Heights or the Southeast Heights, for example, in the evenings. If you could just kind of give us a feel for the number of officers that are out on swing.
So Commander Weber, do you have your lineup? Kind of give them a round out of what the total numbers would be.
Yeah. So the swing shift is stacked 16 officers every day of the week. And then there are on graveyard, as you get into the 10 o'clock hour, it depends on the day of the week. It's anywhere from 16 to 24 officers who work. And then it's a little bit dependent on, so like at 10 o'clock at night, you've got swing officers and grave officers working. There's a couple of hours there, it's around 35 or something like that, but that doesn't last very long. In general, on the day shift, it's all staffed based on, obviously I was given an allotment, and I can tell you I was given 70 officers out of that number that the DC mentioned. I was given 70 to allot across my 3 shifts and 7 days a week. So it's allotted based on when we perceive ourselves the busiest, based on our data, and when we're the lightest, we try to allocate less resources. So the day shift goes anywhere from I think 13 officers on like a Monday morning, where it hasn't been shown to be as busy, up to the 16 And then swing shift is always at 16, and then graveyard, it varies between 16 and 24. So the goal this year for me as the area commander up here, because we all got to allocate our numbers based on what we wanted within certain restrictions. The goal for me has been to beef up the nighttime shift, simply because most of our in-progress crimes are happening at night. And I want the resources for there to be coverage of 911 calls, but also being able to respond to do proactive type police work. It doesn't do us any good to chase our tails and just take reports of things that have already happened. We need to be having a presence out there and actively attacking the problem. So that's kind of a, I guess, not so brief rundown of what you're getting.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, so there's a question in the chat about morale. So do you anticipate with the change from 10s to 8s that there's going to be a shift or an impact in morale with the officers?
I think there is. There's, we wanted to keep the 410s. I think when Chief Medina came back, we went back and moved the field back to 410s again. To be perfectly honest, it's not something that we wanted to do. It's something that was just mathematically we had to do. I mean, just the math doesn't add up to, for officer safety issues, for response times, and for just, overall police services that we're required to provide. It just doesn't work on 410s with the staffing that we currently have assigned to field services. So I can expect them to be, the field not to be too pleased with it. But it wasn't intentional to ruffle any feathers or anything else. Just mathematically, that's the way it worked out. And the officers that I've talked to are understanding of it. I mean, we had the choice of 410s, 5/8s, or 312s, and everybody I talked to across the board didn't want to do the 12s. Everybody wanted to stay on the 410s, which is why we had to compromise and make. We left graveyard on 410s just for that, because Graves is a tough time for officers to spend on 5/8s, you get essentially 1 day off because you're recovering on that first day off, from having to stay up till 8 o'clock in the morning. And so we wanted to keep the graveyards on 410s just for that reason. And then each watch has day shift and swing shift, both have at least one 410 squad in that as well. So it was a mixture of the best we could do with the personnel that we had available.
Okay.